Well done for coming out, facing the cameras. Lots of the papers speculating about why you were effectively, I mean, I hate to say it, I mean, it's being described as a demotion by some. I mean, do you think this is because you're not right enough in the party? You're not enough of a Blairite for Sir Keir Starmer?
No, I've been asked to do a role where apparently I'm going to be coming on the media much more. The spin doctors out there apparently were briefing this as a shadow minister for the Today programme, but I like to think of it as the shadow minister for coming on GB News in the morning.
Smooth, very smooth.
Well, I'll tell you, Anna, it surprised me that, if that is your role, congratulations, and that is, very, very good, because I do genuinely think, Jonathon, not only are you a very capable politician, you are a great communicator, and you're someone that I think more politicians could learn from, and that is you speak in everyday language, so you can communicate with you, and you're perhaps not going to throw a strop the way we've seen in the past 24 hours or so. All of that said, I don't have to agree with everything you say, and you're going to tell me about these crumbling school buildings. Awful, appalling, ghastly. But it happened under your watch as well, Labour.
But it's an absolute shambles what's happening now, isn't it? And of course, Labour had a big rebuilding schools programme. One of the first things the Conservatives did when they got in 13 years ago, a long time ago now, 13 years, but one of the first things that they did, of course, was cut that schools rebuilding programme. Look, this is really serious. I've got a school in my own constituency, a primary school, which actually closed at Easter. And the young pupils at that primary school, spread out across 4 or 5 different sites. Some of them on a site at a local secondary school, some of them in community centres. A local mosque was helping them with one of their centres as well. I mean, the community's really rallied round, but even today there are pupils at that school, because it's not open, being ferried across the city of Leicester in buses. That's costing thousands of pounds, and the temporary accommodation that we're expecting to be built, not actually the school getting rebuilt, the temporary accommodation that we're expecting to be rebuilt won't come online until probably by February next year. And that's when the school closed in April. So it's an absolute shambles. And parents across the country watching the TV this morning and watching GB News this morning, I think will be absolutely appalled.
But Jonathon, as I said, it happened under the Blair government and the Brown governments as well, and it's a massive issue. People are kicking the can down the road because the cost is huge to actually sort this out.
But we had a programme for rebuilding schools, and as I say, after 13 years ago, when the Conservatives first got in 13 years ago, they cut that programme. And I think today, look, when you've got sort of roofs at risk of collapse in various schools across the country, pupils really worried. You've got the Education Secretary expecting to be thanked and congratulated by parents. And then, of course, when you step back, it's not just the schools. Air traffic control was in a shambles last week. Our rivers are full of sewage. Our hospitals can't cope with the backlog for treatment. Nothing works in this country after 13 years. It really is time for change. Yeah, but may I say, the defence that the Education Secretary's come out with is actually it's not her job to be responsible for the safety of the buildings. That's often, in actual fact, the responsibility of the local authorities, many of whom are not Conservative local authorities. Do you accept that? No, I mean, can I just say, perhaps directly to the Education Secretary, I don't know if she's watching, hello, your title is Education Secretary. You're responsible for schools and parents across the country, teachers who work in schools, and pupils, because some of these pupils are old enough to understand what is going on, want you to fix this, and don't want any more of your saying, nothing to do with me, Gov. That is, frankly, an abdication of your responsibilities. And I was talking to a head teacher yesterday who said these are darker days than COVID for his school, because his school is closed. I am so worried about the impact on children. I've got I've got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, yeah? One of them in primary school, one of them now in secondary school. I, like every parent watching this, wants the very best for my children and for all children in this country. And to be honest, it makes me absolutely furious that the Education Secretary is dismissing this, is being casual, is expecting thanks, was actually laughing about it last night when she had to go out and do our apology interviews. This is about our children, and it's not just about people's children. Children are the future of this country. We should be doing the very best for children in this country.
But Jonathan, we're being assured by Conservative spokesperson after Conservative spokesperson that everything's okay, that the Department of Education will simply pay for this, that the money is there. Now, I'm not the Secretary of State for Education, but I would have thought that the Department of Education was there, yes, for a bit of maintenance to throw in and maintain schools and whatever, but they had other roles to do with the education of children and paying for that and paying for teachers, etc., rather than rebuilding fraudulent concrete. So could you just explain to me, when they say that all of this rebuilding will come out of the Department of Education budget, what that actually means and what knock-on effect that would have?
Well, Jeremy Hunt at the weekend said, we're going to sort this out, we're going to pay for it. Well, let's see when we're getting the money. Of course, as I've said, I've got a school in my own constituency, which closed in April at Easter, isn't even going to get its temporary buildings until February, let alone, the roof getting rebuilt. That's a separate issue. That's the temporary buildings, because at the moment, pupils are spread out across different sites. So when are these schools going to get rebuilt? And of course, yes, the rebuilding is the priority, but it also has other impacts. My school in my constituency is ferrying children across the city in buses. Well, someone's got to pay for that. And if that's happening to other schools, that's got to be paid for as well. So is the Department for Education going to step in? It also knocks on to other things like Ofsted inspections and those pupils who are sitting SATs, and now they're going to sit their SATs. Is it going to, if they miss their SATs, how is that going to be accounted for? There's lots of big questions here that need resolving. But frankly, the impression I get, and I think the country get, is that the Education Secretary and Rishi Sunak haven't got a grip of this.